It's Showtime Synergy. The latest review podcast from the Geekcast Radio Network is here. So join TFG1Mike, Nicole Hailstorm, and myself, Lady Rec, as we will be reviewing all 65 episodes of Jet on the Holograms in a 25-episode-long podcast. You can find Showtime Synergy on iTunes and GeekCastRadio.com. We are the truly outrageous podcast that you want to be listening to.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull." Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together, we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Hello, this is OptimusSolo, and welcome to the 45th chapter in Tales of Eternia. With me for this journey into the Masters of the Universe franchise, as always, is TFG1Mike. Hello.
Hello.
In this episode of Tales of Eternia, we'll be giving you our thoughts on the entire Filmation He-Man series overall. So we hope you're ready, because it's time for the final trip back to Eternia. All right, folks, as I said, this is our final trip back to Eternia. We're wrapping up He-Man Filmation series from the 80s. Before we get into the topics, I'll give you a quick second to talk, but just to give people a brief overview of what we're going to be doing today, we're going to have all kinds of different things as far as a look-back, retrospective angle here at He-Man. We're going to go over our top and bottom 10 episodes overall from the entire series. We're going to break down our ratings that we've been given every week. We've been doing our ratings for each episode, so we have all of the mathematics done and the tabulations to let you know how we rated each season, how we rated the series overall, who liked it more, who liked it least, all that stuff. Then we're going to take a quick look at the writers, kind of go over who wrote the most episodes, who was the best writers from the series. Then we will break down, as you guys have heard, episode by episode. We like to hand out hardware. We'll see just who got the most Havoc Staffs and Power Swords and all that. And then we're just going to have some fun talking about some characters. So we're going to go over our favorite masters. We're going to go over our least favorite masters, our favorite evil villains, our least favorite evil villains, and then a quick look at some of the non-main characters, just some of the side characters to see who we liked and didn't like. From that, we'll wrap it up by taking a quick look at the voice actors, going over your feedback about the show, and then our overall thoughts and reflections of this whole journey we've been on. Before we get into any of that, Mike, what would you like to say?
3 years is too long. We'll talk about that later, but we've been doing this podcast for 3 years. There was a brief bit of a hiatus in, I think it was between episode 14 and 15, where I think there was a whole year or so that we didn't, but the show has been around for people to listen to for 3 years now. I know, folks, in the last 5 episodes of the pod, 40 to 44, I was really, really down on this series because none of my expectations of some sort of final battle ever came to light. But we're wrapping this up. I'm very proud of the job that we've done over these many years, bringing you guys a He-Man show. That was kind of the goal, way back when you brought this idea to me, and I'm not going down memory lane here. We'll do that later, but I'm just saying that was kind of the goal was everybody knew us as in the Geekcast Radio Network. Everybody knew Steve and I as the those Transformers podcasters and blah, 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 and everything else. And, when you brought this idea to me, I was like, yeah, we could do this. We could, this will be pretty awesome. And the awesomeness is not going to end, folks, because we got 3 more series to cover on this podcast.
Well, let's not say that they're all going to be awesome, first of all.
Well, I'm saying that
maybe it'll surprise me.
The awesomeness of doing the show and the awesomeness of doing
right.
I said this to one of our fans recently, and he understands. Brad Mull, Brad Ostron Prime on Twitter. He keeps asking for Transformers Primetime and TFG2, and I know I've been promising people the TFG2 podcast since 2012. I understand that. But right now, I need to do other things. I am so burnt out on Transformers.
You guys, we're like the DC and the Marvel of podcasts, and we like to plan things out 15 years in advance, and along the way, sometimes things change.
Well, yeah, but at least we're not, rewriting continuity and saying, oh, none of this crap ever happened.
We might after we take our trip to space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many other podcasts out there have done episode by episode through the entire He-Man series. I don't think there's very many. So, like you said, I am proud of the fact that we went through the entire series, because that's an option for fans of the series out there now forever to kind of catch up and listen to all the episodes, iTunes problems notwithstanding. But
well, okay, let me bring that up. Anyone that goes over to our iTunes page and sees Powers of Grayskull, because that's where all 4 of these podcasts will be found, is on that one feed. Lately, GCRN has been having some bandwidth issues, so we've had to limit the number of episodes that show up in iTunes. That's not saying that they're not still there. They just don't show in iTunes. If you go over to our website, you can find all 45 episodes, plus whatever other episodes I don't remember if they're episode 0 or whatever. You can find everything on geekcastradio.com. You should be able to get most of it once you subscribe onto iTunes. But yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not saying that when I say more awesome is to come, I don't mean the shows specifically. I mean the fact that we're covering, we're continuing our journey into this franchise, and there's going to be a lot of special things coming up as well.
Yeah, we haven't done any of our special episodes yet, but those are coming.
Yeah, we've got special episodes planned for 50, 75, 75.5, I think, and
125?
125, no, 100 and 120, I think, is what it is.
So we got some special stuff to cover, some other things involved with the He-Man franchise. But there's 3 other series that we're still going to cover. I'm interested. I've never seen one of those series, and one of those series I know I like, and then the other series, which we're about to get into, I honestly have avoided like the plague. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation. I've avoided it 100%, even though it's been on Boomerang, and I have bought the complete DVD series years ago now. It had to be a year or 2 ago now. I haven't even opened it because I've been wanting to save everything until we watch it for this podcast. So I've been holding back for all you guys, so you guys can get my genuine reactions as I watch it, because I honestly have not seen an episode of She-Ra probably since I was like 9 or 10.
The only thing I did earlier last year when She-Ra was running on, I think, Retro TV or some weird channel, I did watch a couple episodes, but I honestly don't, it was 11 o'clock in the morning and I was half asleep or something on a Saturday or something or other, because I'd been podcasting all that night before. But yeah, the only thing that I know for sure is Secret of the Sword.
Right.
That's the only thing I know from She-Ra for sure. I know that movie forwards, backwards, upside down, and inside out. And I also know the differences, and which we'll point out and we'll talk about at the end of the podcast here to kind of tease that up, but I know the differences between the movie version and the episodic version of those 5, because we'll talk about that later, but yeah.
Like I said, we'll get into what's coming up here towards the end of the show, so you guys can be ready for what's next in this whole Powers of Grayskull series. But as for now, we're going to get right into it. So we're going to start off with a bang. We're going to go over the 10, just in case anybody decides to stop listening later on in the podcast. You'll get it right away. You'll get it here. These are the 10 best episodes. So for all those people that are trying to decide if the series was good, you haven't seen it since you were a kid, does it hold up, does it not hold up, we're giving you the episodes that you should watch. Listen to this next segment. These are the, I don't know how many we're going to be because there's going to be some overlap, but somewhere between 10 and 20 episodes here that are the best they have to offer. These are the ones you should watch in order to judge He-Man. So we're just going to go back and forth, starting with 10 and going all up until our favorite episode of the entire series. So, Mike, what is your 10th overall best episode of the series?
It's going to surprise a lot of people. Hell, it might even make you drop your mic and walk away.
I hope not.
Number 10 for me is Teela's Quest.
Nope, not going to drop my mic.
Even though I don't like Teela at all, whatsoever, her origin was awesome.
Yeah.
We needed more of this type of storytelling in this series. Her origin was awesome. It goes back, it shows us the path that she is going to take, or she is her destined path of becoming the next sorceress after the current sorceress. Absolutely love that episode. The voice acting in it was great. The characterizations was great. The writing was great. Everything about it was wonderful.
Anytime one of these comes up that I have on my list, I'm just going to save my thoughts until I have it. So I guess I should be surprised that you have it on your list, but not surprised that it's on a top 10 list of He-Man episodes. So my number 10, I'm going to season 1, episode 29. That would be Prince Adam No More. The synopsis for this one was King Randor had always thought Adam as unreliable. So to prove his worth, Adam tried to change his ways. It had been a while at this point in the series. We hadn't seen a bunch of Evil Warriors for a few episodes, so this episode was good because it gave us a relook at a bunch of the Evil Warriors. Skeletor banishing an Evil Warrior was an interesting side, and we just had a big internal struggle with Adam. So that was cool to see. And then we not just got development from Adam's character, we got character development for Beastman, character development for King Randor. So I really enjoyed this episode as kind of a look at Adam's side of the thing, not just He-Man, but Adam's perspective. So I have Prince Adam No More at my number 10. What do you have for number 9, sir?
The Time Corridor.
I did not have this one on my list at all, so go for it.
Really? The Time Corridor is interesting because Skeletor thinks he's going to win. He's going to trap He-Man in another time or another dimension, or I believe this is the one where he wanted to go back and rebuild Grayskull in his own image. I could be wrong. I don't have any of the information in front of me.
He's not the poor guy, guys. That's me.
Yeah, well, if you'd have filled out the script a little bit better, it would have been easier. Anyway. But the Time Corridor was always interesting to me because in a series that is basically a mixture of mythology and technology, it's so cool seeing the two come together and seeing how Skeletor is going to trap He-Man in time. I mean, it kind of has that Captain America feeling for me. If anyone has read Mark Waid's Captain America Man Out of Time, right. It's kind of like, some things have changed. You've been asleep for 70 years. It's kind of that kind of thing. And just, I don't remember specifically, but I do remember Skeletor making a lot of puns in that episode, and Skeletor is just hilarious.
I can't disagree with you on that one. I did rate this one. I did rate this one a 4, so I wasn't too far off. It wasn't quite high enough to reach my top 10, but it's still a solid episode overall.
Absolutely.
You're going to probably disagree with me a little bit on my next one, so I guess we'll just get it over because you gave this one a 3, but I had it at a 5. So,
oh no!
So I will mention from season 1, back in episode 18 of the series, and that is Creatures from the Tar Swamp. No. Prince Adam's spoiled cousin, Lady Edwina, comes for a visit, and Orko immediately falls for her. To buy love, Orko decides to find a gold medallion that he lost in the tar swamp, but Skeletor is beginning to wake the monsters of the swamp. I mean, this has some bad characters. Obviously, Lady Edwina will come up later in the podcast, but I just liked the idea of getting a little bit of Orko and how he got to Eternia and lost his medallion. We also saw a young Adam and a young Cringer. It took a while in this episode for He-Man to appear, which is something that episode 18 that we hadn't seen really. Usually it was like very quick in the first couple minutes. This one took about, almost a third of the way into the episode before He-Man appeared. So I thought that was cool. Stratos was involved. I obviously always like Stratos. And then we also got the whole Skeletor and Evil Lyn sitting on the thrones, which I liked. Besides that, I thought it was a great ending to the episode. I won't say anything about it, just in case anyone's going back to watch it. So, I mean, I know you're not as high on this one, but I thought it was good enough to make my top 10, so that is Creatures from the Tar Swamp. Silence is golden.
I mean, well, the points that you bring up are really good points. Sadly for me,
Lady Edwina ruined it enough.
Edwina is so horrible. And I did give it a 3. It's not like I gave it a 2 or a 1 or anything. So I mean, it's not,
All right, then what's your number 8, sir?
Number 8 would be what you've already listed, Prince Adam No More.
It's good when we agree.
Yeah. It's better when I'm right. Yes, it does. I like this episode. Like you already said, it pretty much explores the Adam angle, and again, I don't think that's shown enough in this series. I wish that it was done, not better, but I wish it was done more. I wish we would see more, because when we usually see Adam, he's either training with Teela, reluctantly, or he's out relaxing by the lake with Cringer, sleeping until something happens. And I mean, I understand that's part of his personality, but exploring like his stresses, his issues with being this super all-powerful man of the universe, is always interesting.
No, I'm with you there. Obviously, I had it on my list as well, so not disagreeing. I didn't realize what I've been doing so far, but I was just looking. My number 10, Prince Adam No More, was a Paul Dini episode. My number 9, which was Creatures from the Tar Swamp, is a Richard Party and Paul Dini episode. And my number 8 is also a Paul Dini episode, so I guess I like him. But I'm going to where you were already, so we're just kind of flip-flopping here on number 8. My number 8 is Teela's Quest. Again, this was a great backstory for Teela overall, and it was fairly early in the series, so it was good to get that kind of backstory. We also got to see Merman's headquarters, which I love Merman. So obviously, the Sorceress Teela connection, that was cool. So like all the things that you said, basically, Teela's Quest is a good story for some character development, for some backstory. So that's what my number 8 was, back all the way in episode 6 of the first season, which brings us to your number 7. What do you got?
Wait a minute. Hold on here.
Mike's not great at math, so he might have his numbers mixed up.
Funny. Oh, crap. My number 7 is The Origin of the Sorceress. Again, it's an origin story. It's something we didn't get often in this series, but it's always nice to see where she came from and where, we all in the past 44 episodes, we often complain about her and her powers, but it's kind of nice seeing that there was a sorceress before her.
Yeah.
And I believe, was this the episode, the first time ever we saw the 2 power swords?
I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, I absolutely love this one. It's so great seeing our sorceress's origin and seeing, what she would eventually become. I don't remember what the plot is. I don't remember the villain plot in that one, though. I remember
Morgoth or whatever his name was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah, he was coming back to try to get at her. Not in that way.
Ugh. That's God.
Yeah, it was the flashback to how her first battle against Morgoth, and
Oh yeah, okay,
coming full
that's
circle.
why. Yeah, that's why he's in that episode.
All right. Well, my number 7, I'm breaking the Paul Dini streak. We're going to Larry DiTilio this time. You did not rank this one as high as I did, but it's season 2, episode 48, and that is Happy Birthday, Mr. Roboto. Adam and Duncan obviously rescue the robot pilot from its crashed spaceship and manage to fix it back up, but Modulok breaks into the palace to claim Roboto's power for himself. We get a lot of continuity in this one. We get references to Garn from a previous episode. We get references to the Zactons from the previous episodes. You know, we had the buried hidden ship from, you know, some other time and place that we have to figure out what's going on with that. There was a cool voice work on the robots and the effects of the robot guarding the lab, which I liked. I also liked the voice work for Modulok, and the evil warrior having his own lair. I thought that was cool. Obviously, this is somewhat done out of order for what we see later with Modulok, but there's also some very cool shots of He-Man and Man-at-Arms as far as the artwork goes, and just great artworks and images throughout this entire episode. It's a good one to look at and to kind of see from the animation standpoint, and just some nice looking shots. So I know you didn't quite have this one as high as I did, but that is my number 7. I'm trying to see what you exactly rank this one. You had it a 4, so you're not too far off. So
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the episode.
All right. Well, what's your number 6?
Number 6 is The Mystery of Many Faces. This was episode 31 from season 1. I just like this episode because, again, and that's honestly half of my top 10 is probably the origin stories because they were the best written episodes.
Right.
I mean, how do you screw up an origin story? I mean, there's no real way you can unless you're Scott Snyder and talking about Batman. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a whole other deal. So,
how do you really feel?
The Mystery of Many Faces. I couldn't remember, you know, like you said earlier when you're talking about you haven't seen a lot of She-Ra at all since you were a kid. I couldn't remember when we first started this podcast how Many Faces was going to be introduced into the show. I always thought that he was already there, because I don't know, my childhood memories of this show are like everybody was already there, like
right.
Stratos and Many Faces and Ram Man and Fisto, and everybody was already a master. Everybody was already, you know, on He-Man's side and everything else. And that's not the case now that I realize, but the fact that he starts off as, oh, I'm this monster and nobody likes me and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, to find out he has become a Shakespearean actor, you know? I mean, it really was, once again, a really good origin story. And I wish we had more of Many Faces in the series.
I can agree with that. And I was not far from you on this one. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5. So it was just on the brink of making the possibility of being selected for my list. So a great one as well. For my number 6, I'm going to go with another one that my third here on my list that you're not on the same page with. And that is from season 2, episode 65, the final episode of the series, The Cold Zone. Cobra Khan asking for He-Man's help in restoring the eternal flame of his people, the Reptons. Man.
What did I give that one?
You gave it a 3.5.
Okay, so I'm not mad at you for putting it on your list at all. It's one of your favorites. That's fine. The only thing that stops me from praising that episode more is the fact that I don't feel it was, and I said this last podcast episode, I don't feel it was a proper series finale, and we've already argued all that points and everything else, but that's really the only reason that's really the only sticking point for me why I don't really care for it.
Yeah. I mean, as for me, I love the Snake People. I really loved them. I really thought that was a great group of characters that I would have loved to see explored more. Unfortunately, we didn't get the chance. And we also got the introduction of Attack Track and Land Shark going at each other, and that was a great element to it. The only bad thing about this episode was that there's no Skeletor or anything like that. But for me, just the Cobra Khan and the Snake People are something I would have loved to see more of. So that's why it's not necessarily a series finale, but I still think it stands alone as a great episode if you just watch it on its own. So that's why it's my number 6, and that means we're into our top 5. What do you start with? Oh, by the way, the
Yeah.
Cold Zone, J. Michael Straczynski, the Manny Faces episode that you just talked about, Paul Dini.
Yeah. Oh.
So, what's your number 5?
Number 5, The Witch and the Warrior. The only time in the entire series we see Evelyn and Tila have to work together.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up, not to interrupt you, but I'm glad you brought this up because this is one of the ones that I did rank a 5, but did not make my top 10, so it was going to be an honorable mention, so I'm glad we get a chance to talk about it.
Blasphemer!
No, I have it. It's one of my. I rated a 5. I had more than 10 5s, so somebody had to get cut out. So, but yeah, from season 1, episode 59. Go ahead and talk about the Witch and the Warrior.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I remember from my childhood. Was this episode where, oh my God, these two women absolutely hate each other because they're on two opposing sides. One is good, one is evil, and now they are forced into it. It's that classic thing. Two enemies are forced into a situation where they have to work together as friends.
Right.
This is so well executed. It's easily the 2 episodes out of any 80s television series that I know that are so well executed with this type of plot is this episode here, The Witch and the Warrior, and an episode of Gem where Gem and the Holograms and the Misfits have to actually work together. I forget the title of that episode off the top of my head, but I love the interactions between Tila and Evelyn. Tila is trying to be nice. I mean, Tila is not, being spiteful to Evelyn. Evelyn is being herself, and she is, constantly putting Tila down and all that stuff. But Tila is really, really trying to show her, hey, look, we're in this situation. It would be best if we work together. And, they find out that they each need each other. And that's, again, it was one of the more enjoyable episodes of the series.
When I did my ratings, I never paid attention to who was writing episodes. And when I was making my top 10 list, I had absolutely no idea who wrote any of these episodes. I just had the episode title and my rating and the synopsis, and I went back and looked at my good moments and my bad moments, and that's kind of how I went through it, with no thought even whatsoever of who wrote any of these episodes. But The Witch and the Warrior, Paul Dini. So, yeah, I guess.
It doesn't surprise me, honestly.
Right. For my number 5... going back to season 1, towards the end of season 1, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me on this one. We're going to go to Larry DiTillio and the Return of Granomir. Granomir asks for He-Man's help. The youngest dragon, Torm, is in love with a human girl, but her father wishes for a test which He-Man must take in Torm's place. And then they've got the evil wizard Zem also desiring the girl's heart. Obviously, this involves Granomir. So that's a plus. We also have continuity between the 2 meetings, with Man-at-Arms recalling things. There's a great intro into the plot, which I liked, the mythological challenge aspect of it. There's just a lot to like about this. Epic dragon battle involved in this one. Yep. All the Granomir episodes are good, in my opinion. This is the one I think I have as the best of the best. So this is my number 5, The Return of Granomir. What's your number 4?
Return of Granomir did not make my list. It was the 11th. It was the 11th choice. So it kind of got axed at the 11th hour. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely love it. Number 4. This is the one I guarantee you, people. He's going to just click and not come back. Number 4 for me. The best circus episode in the entire series, A Beastly Sideshow. Not because of the circus, but because of what Cringer has to go through. Cringer's characterization in this episode is by far the most characterization he has gotten in the entire series. And it is just so awesome seeing him do something that we normally do not expect it, because the whole point of He-Man and Battle-Cat and Adam and Cringer is Adam and Cringer are the, I don't want to say submissive, but they're the dormant personalities, kind of. They're the ones where they have to, really seriously, they're actors. They have to act like they are stupider. Well, I mean, in Cringer's case, he's not stupid. He's just very, very fearful of everything. I mean, you drop a feather on his head and he'll jump 20 feet in the air. But A Beastly Sideshow really showed off his courage. He had to save He-Man. He-Man couldn't turn him into Battle Cat. And Cringer is just amazing in A Beastly Sideshow.
I will say that it is the better of the two circus episodes that we got.
Wow, I don't think that would ever happen, because I think a few episodes ago you said the opposite.
No, A Beastly Sideshow I had higher than the greatest show on Eternia.
Okay.
But I did only give it a 2.5, so I would slightly disagree with you on that one, but it is your list, so I'll let you have it. My number 4, I'm going somewhere where you already went, Season 2, Episode 8, from J. Michael Straczynski, The Origin of the Sorceress. We talked about it already a lot, but the origin story for the Sorceress, we got a look at some Horde members, and it was just, I don't know, it was cool to see something that I absolutely forgot from my childhood, something I didn't even know as far as a prior Sorceress, and that blew my mind a little bit, so that's why it's all the way up here at number 4. I really, really, really loved The Origin of the Sorceress. So, what's your number 3?
Here, there's Skeletors everywhere.
Yeah.
For one reason only. A mini army of Skeletors.
The Skeletoids.
The Skeletoids were so awesome. This episode absolutely makes no sense as far as plot, but it's just so funny. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it doesn't even need a plot. Skeletor just makes these Skeletoids, and oh god, and Alan Oppenheimer, he has his main Skeletor voice, and I don't know if they sped him up or if they did anything to his Skeletor voice for the Skeletoids, but just hearing a tinier version of that big booming Skeletor voice is just so awesome.
Yeah, and I'm going to bounce off this one a little because it's another one of my honorable mentions. I rated this one a 5 too, just didn't quite make the cut. But yeah, Mossman as a spy, all the different Skeletoids. We got a tack track doing some cool stuff. So this is a very fun episode. If you're just wanting to just sit back and have fun with an episode and laugh and enjoy it, then this is definitely a very, very good episode. And like I said, I rated it a 5, so I can't disagree with you. Mm-hmm. All right, we are up to number 3 for me. I'm going to go to one of the only episodes we got from Bob Forward, Season 2, Episode 20, and that would be The Rainbow Warrior. Skeletor kidnaps King Randor, Prince Adam, Teela, Man-at-Arms, and Orko in order to have the royal guards become leaderless, but Queen Marlena may prove to be a more worthy leader than everyone else believes. Backstory for Queen Marlena, connections to Earth, the hint that the Queen is smarter than most and knows He-Man, Skeletor with some funny moments. I've tried to capture Castle Grayskull 6 times already. First one didn't count. There's actual storytelling in here, calling Trapjaw a metal munching moron, or somebody did. But the animation on Skeletor, the action involved in this, we have jetpacks involved, He-Man almost mistakenly calling Marlena mother. So, I mean, there was a lot to like in The Rainbow Warrior for me. A lot of fun, funny moments, some good action, and a great backstory. So it had everything that I like in an episode. Some of them I'm having on here just because of the backstory, or some I'm having here, just because of the humor, like you kind of get with Here, There, Skeletors Everywhere, or some just from the action. But this has a little of everything. So I really loved Rainbow Warrior for my number 3.
Yep.
All right, top 2. What do you got?
Rainbow Warrior, number 2.
Not too far off then.
No. This episode is easily could have been a tie for number 1, honestly. I mean, really. You look at all 130 cartoons in this series, this episode stands out probably 85% most of the time. Because of what you just said. It's that episode where we find out how Randor and Marlena fell in love. We find out, that she is from Earth. So, I mean, technically, Adam is... Oh, God.
I don't even know what you're about to say.
Oh, my God, no. Oh, God, no. My mother was human, so that makes Earth my only home. Oh my God, He-Man is Spock.
Oh my.
He-Man is Spock. The logic is sound, people. But the Rainbow Warrior, absolutely. And I love the mystery around it because it's like Randor is the most underutilized good character in the entire series because we see King Randor and Queen Marlena, but they're not active because obviously this is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but it's like, what are the King and Queen doing half the time?
That's true.
It's one of those things, and we see the story from Randor's point of view for like the first 10, 15 minutes of it, and he's telling the backstory of Marlena, and it's just absolutely amazing. Yeah.
All right, well, for my number 2, I'm going to the other. There's only 2 Bob Forward episodes, and I have them back to back here with Rainbow Warrior and my number 2 from season 2, episode 45, The Problem with Power. Skeletor tricks He-Man into believing he accidentally killed a man. Distraught, Adam decides to give up being He-Man and throws the Power Sword into Grayskull's abyss. Goodness. He-Man confronting Skeletor face to face. Orko having some great moments here. One of the best plots of the series as far as complexity and uniqueness. We have great graphics, art, drawing, coloring, shading, especially when He-Man's on that tower. The good line, let the power return. I know you're in agreement with this one. The Problem with Power is absolutely one of the best episodes of the series.
Yep.
All right. That means it is time for your number 1, which is...
The Problem with Power.
Right.
I mean, how can you not make that your number 1
Well,
episode?
I didn't.
Anyone... Yeah, I know. That's what has me scared, because I'm really scared to see what your number 1 is, but it's one of those things where how can people not make... That's why I said a second ago. The Problem with Power and the Rainbow Warrior could easily be tied for number 1, because they are 2 of the best, if not the 2 best episodes of the entire series, as far as story-wise goes. Everything you just said, let the power return, throwing it into the abyss, that whole moonlit scene. It's not often, like, we see Castle Grayskull at night, but it's not often we see an up-close Castle Grayskull with He-Man there with the moonlight, showing in the background. Because usually Castle Grayskull at night, it's lightning, it's thunder, it's all this stuff. But The Problem with Power, absolutely number 1 episode of the entire series.
All right. That leaves it up to me to give you my number 1 episode of the entire series. We've had a whole bunch of Paul Dini. We've had a little Larry DiTilio. We've had 2 Bob Forward episodes. We've had a J. Michael Straczynski in there. One guy we haven't heard from yet, and he's the one who wrote my number 1 episode of the series. That would be David Wise. Season 1, episode 62, The Golden Discs of Knowledge. A former traitor, Xanthor, wishes to make amends with the sorceress and Zodak by recovering the Golden Disc of Knowledge from Skeletor. I love the whole idea of Zodak, and the only original member of the council left is Zodak. The idea that the story is about, deserving a second chance. I like the backstory of the building of Snake Mountain. Some good original animation in this episode that we don't always get. Skeletor's face when the snake comes after him is funny. Xanthor becoming a cosmic enforcer. I understand why everybody else wouldn't have this episode maybe as number 1, but I just loved the backstory with Zodak and the whole backstory of not just Zodak, but of Eternia and of this universe in general with the council and everything. I just wish we would have got more Zodak in this series, because he is by far one of my favorite characters. I can't argue with the Rainbow Warrior and Problem with Power. Obviously, I have those as 3 and 2, but something about Golden Disc of Knowledge, just for me personally, I just really enjoyed. So that's what makes my number 1.
When you said David Wise's name, I'm like, oh hell no, he better not list Day of the Machines. Hell no.
Golden Disc of Knowledge. Real quick to go over just my other honorable mentions that we didn't list. Obviously, Mike had The Witch and the Warrior, and here there's Skeletors everywhere. My only other 2 on the list would have been Battle of the Dragons, which was another Granomir episode, back from season 2, episode 49. We both gave that one a high score as well. And I know you won't agree with me on this one, but the only other episode that I gave a 5 the entire series was Mistaken Identity, where
no.
They try to pretend to be He-Man. I just loved the idea of that, and I loved Modulok trying to join Skeletor's gang. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. Did you have any that you didn't quite make the cut?
Return of Granomir was the last one that didn't,
Gotcha.
and I didn't write any honorable mentions because I was just picking out my 10 favorites. So
all right, well, we're going to take a quick break then, and we'll be back with the other side of the coin. The episodes you should avoid. The bottom 10 episodes of the series coming up next.
I'll call our warriors from around the universe and bring them here to Snake Mountain.
For every good thing, there also is a bad thing. For every reaction, there's an opposite reaction, or whatever they say.
no, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
And
Come on.
These are those opposite reactions coming up now. So we have our bottom 10 episodes coming up. I'll start this time so we can flip-flop the order. And
I'm pretty sure our number 1 is going to be the same. I'm pretty sure. I'm 95% sure.
I don't think it's going to be.
I'm 95% sure.
All right. Well, my number 10... And it was kind of toss-up with my last couple ones. They all kind of were just in the same boat for me. But my number 10, I'm going to Season 2, Episode 18. And that was written by Robert Lamb, and the title is Into the Abyss. Teela tries to mix training with fun in order for Adam to become more interested in his studies, but one of her tests goes too far, and she ends up falling into the abyss around Grayskull. First of all, this is a Teela-centric episode. Second of all, it involves no evil anything, really. No evil warriors, no bad guys, per se. It's just them in an abyss stuck trying to get out. I mean, I don't know if we could have got more of a boring episode than Into the Abyss. So that is my number 10. I did not enjoy that episode at all.
No.
What do you have for number 10?
Number 10 would be Return of the Gryphon. This episode, are you friggin' kidding me? It's the Gryphon's child.
There's the
It's
other side of David
Gryphon's
Wise right there.
egg. And how stupid. I know the Eternians, some of the villages, believe in old myths and everything else, and we have a lot of that stuff here on Earth as well, but it's like, how stupid are these people? Like, seriously, you don't...
Young Servant Boy Thad.
Return of the Gryphon, number 10. It is just one of the worst episodes of the series. It really
or disagree with you too much there.
I mean, it's so bad because it just makes no sense. The Gryphon puts her egg there, and then I guess somebody built a village around it? I don't know. And then, this mysterious sphere. Oh my god, we must worship the... Oh, give me a break.
I'll save my thoughts on that one for a second. My number 9, I'm going all the way back to the very first episode of the podcast.
Oh no!
From who wrote this? J. Bryn Stevens. And we're going to Colossor Awakes. Skeletor's new weapon turns everyone to stone and brings statues to life. He seeks to gather enough energy to awake the giant statue, Colossor. First of all, we had Stratos and Ram-Man being the ambiguously gay duo. Not sure what was going on with that.
Wait. Come on now.
Queen's knowledge of Earth somehow helped her hit a button. I don't know. And she knew stuff that she shouldn't know as far as what was going to happen. Evelyn shouldn't know that He-Man's going for the fire jewels. The plot is just there's so many holes. That we have a vehicle responding to a whistle. The lesson had nothing to do with the episode. This was a bad way to start the series in the first episode. I hated one right off the bat, and that was Colossor Awakes. Mm-hmm. What's your number 9?
Return of Evil.
Interesting.
Return of Evil was the 48th overall episode of the series. An evil electroid called Aramesh comes to Eternia, targeting Orko and his powers while He-Man tries to protect Orko. Skeletor sets out to make a deal with Aramesh himself. Teela tells viewers, fear is common and natural. Return of Aramesh. Where do they get these... Where do they get these non-evil warrior guys? It's like they just pull them out of their ass.
Sometimes.
it's like friggin', it's like friggin' Jim Carrey and Bruce Almighty, oh, and monkeys might fly out of my butt. Be careful what you say. And the monkey flew out of his ass. Return of Evil is just so horrible. It really, really is. I
gave this one a 1.5, so I'm not too far from that. Not as far off as we will be on our next one. I'm putting Larry DiTillio in the bottom as well. And that's for episode 40 from season 1, and you gave this one a 4. I don't understand.
What is
it's
it?
Orko's Missing Magic.
Oh, Orko's Missing Magic was awesome.
After one of Orko's experiments goes wrong, his powers are sent to another world where they fall into the hands of an evil wizard. Longest intro ever on this episode, and just to prove that they didn't have enough content to fill the episode, not only is it the longest intro ever, but there was also one of the longest outros ever. They could not fill the 22 minutes of actual content. So I have a big problem with that. I don't know. Is Orko's magic worth taking a chance of getting trapped in another dimension forever?
Sure, why not?
And why have we never seen that Gronk animal before? Where is this taking place? Is it Orko's room? It's different every time. I don't understand. And there was just a lot of bad stuff for this episode. I did not enjoy this episode. So Orko's Missing Magic, for me, is one of the worst 10 episodes of the series.
Number 8 for me, The Games.
The Games.
Oh my god, The Games. 128th episode overall of the series. Fisto is chosen to represent the side of good in a series of games set by aliens. Spikar is infused with the villainous energy of all of Skeletor's minions so that he can be chosen to represent the side of evil and cheat.
I
Merman
gave this one a 3.5.
Merman and Beastman appear, but Merman doesn't do shit. The Games, it's just so boring.
I didn't hate it as much as you did, so I don't know about that. But I'll repeat what you said earlier for my number 7, and that'll be the Return of the Gryphon. That was just a bad episode. It's overall the terrible design of the Gryphon, Thad, and his awful voice. He-Man destroying nature. Or since when does He-Man do that type? I mean, I know he's not Captain Planet, but he shouldn't be destroying nature for no reason. We just have water coming from nowhere. This was a laughable episode, so I'm in agreement with you. Return of the Gryphon's my number 7. What is your number 7, sir?
Into the Abyss.
Oh, we're flopping our numbers.
Tila-centric episodes other than Tila's quest and Tila's trial and Witch and Warrior. Tila-centric episodes are just bad. Just all around bad.
That's a good rule to go by. I'm not going to disagree.
I mean, it's...
My next one, you gave it a 2. I gave it a 1. And that is from season 1, episode 25. That is The Quest for the Sword. He-Man loses his sword after an earthquake, and it's found by a rock man.
Yeah, I remember that one.
First of all, the animation in this episode is absolutely terrible. One of the worst animated episodes of the series. The rock monster looks silly and childish.
Doesn't he use the sword as a toothpick?
There's so many bad things here. There's so many. We have vines that are changing colors. We have apparently if you have a sword that makes you a bully. We got He-Man running into Ram Man. I don't know. There's so many problems with this episode. You could just go back and nitpick and find not just animation errors, but plot errors and all kinds of weird coloring and different things. It's just a bad episode. So Quest for the Sword, no good for me. And that one-time writer that we had for it, I'm glad he didn't write anymore. So what's your number 6?
The Eternian Flower.
I will save my thoughts until later.
Oh, no. Oh, come on now. Don't tell me that's your number 1.
Not saying anything.
Come on now. Don't tell me that's your number 1, because the other Marzo episode should be closer. the Eternian flower, or the Eternia flower as it's actually called, because they can't make any goddamn sense and call it the Eternian flower. Heaven forbid. It just, like, why would they do something based on a flower? And this is Count Marzo's episode. Like, Marzo is supposed to be this badass, and he's not.
No.
He's just not. It's such a bad episode.
I agree.
All right. Yours?
I agree. All right, my number 5. Like I said, you might have had the Beastly Sideshow in your best episodes, but it wasn't the worst circus episode. The worst circus episode goes to the greatest show on Eternia. That's my number 5. From season 2, the circus comes to Eternia, and Skeletor is planning to ruin it. First of all, it's our second circus episode, so nothing good about that. And really, Skeletor wants the circus to perform at Snake Mountain. What in God's name was going on in this episode? I'm serious. This is just god-awful nonsense. Roby Gorin wrote this one. I like some of his other stuff. Not this episode. How did you give this episode a 4? Just like circuses, apparently.
No, I actually don't. I gave it a 4 because how ironically idiotic Skeletor and comedic he is being in this episode. He's like a 10-year-old. I want the circus at my house. I want the circus at my house, and I'm going to ruin it if it can't be at my house.
Terrible episode.
Yeah, this is just so funny.
Terrible episode. What's your number 5? Top 5. What do we got?
Number 5, worst is Valley of Power.
I would save my thoughts on that one as well.
This episode makes no goddamn sense.
That's a good way to sum it up.
It makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. This guy wants power. This is the most random quote unquote villain we've ever had.
One of the only episodes that got a 00 from us. Thank you, Doug Booth.
Yeah. Valley of Power makes no sense whatsoever. It starts off with this guy wanting to take over Eternia and have this mythical, magical power. And he doesn't even think to check in with Skeletor. He does... I mean, this is like a farmer dude. It's kind of like, folks, it's kind of like, what if Pauly Shore went from being,
Son-in-law.
a really, really... No, come on now. You leave that movie alone. Come on now. Kelly Kapowski was in that movie, damn it. You leave that one alone. It's like, instead of going, in the army now, what if, he was in the villains phase now or something? It's just, oh my God, this is Valley of Power.
Very bad episode. My number 4. Going to, I don't care what Tim says. All right.
Oh, so that's where you put this
I don't care what he says. From 117th episode overall, Don Heckman gave us this one, and he shouldn't have. It's from season 2, Beauty and the Beast. Skeletor kidnaps Tila and Orko sends them to an unreachable castle of the monster of Morgor. Well, he demands a hefty ransom to rule Eternia. First of all, we had the building material for the new hospital. I told you how I felt about that one. We have Tila ignoring her own advice. We have bees that look retarded. We have the heavy-handed whole Beauty and the Beast moral over and over and over again, to the point where she kisses him and he comes back to his normal self, which is the dumbest thing that was ever invented in any story ever. Beauty and the Beast is awful. I hated that episode. It is my 4th worst episode of the series. What's your number 4?
Number 4, The Royal Cousin.
That is interesting. I didn't have that one.
The Royal Cousin. This is Ed Weiner, right? Or is this Jeremy? I thought this was Jeremy.
The Royal Cousin, give me 2 seconds and I'll find out for you.
I could have sworn it was Jeremy. I don't know, folks. The Royal, anytime they try to introduce other Eternian or Randorian family
Jeremy
members.
is in this one.
Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, Jeremy. No. Jeremy, even though he supposedly gets redeemed at the end of this episode, or he learns his lesson, Yeah, no, he's still an ass. I mean, he just and the voice. I'm sorry. I usually praise all voice actors and actresses, but there are just some voices that you just grate on you.
Yeah, I
And
gave this one a 1.5,
it's
so I'm not too far off.
yeah. So Royal Cousin number 4 for me.
All right, that takes me to my number 3, which you had rated 1 point higher than I did, so it's probably not on your list. So I'm glad I'm getting to mention it here. It is from the first season, episode 11, Like Father, Like Daughter.
No.
He-Man and Man-at-Arms try to figure out what Skeletor's new plan is. Teela secretly follows them.
It's a Teela episode.
Even the characters in this episode didn't know what the plot was. At one point, they have a line that says, whatever it is. Like, are you seriously? That's what the writing here is? Man-at-Arms wanted them to split up, so they walked like 10 feet away. This episode is awkward. The timing is horrible. The animation is terrible. The design is terrible. There's no consequences for Teela whatsoever, so it doesn't really give a good lesson. Like Father, Like Daughter is an awful episode. It's my third worst episode of the series.
Yep. You already mentioned it, but Colossor Awakes.
Yeah.
Why? Just why?
It was a bad way to start the series.
Why Skeletor? Why? Like, I wish that this series, and I know this series, and I know the style in the 80s was episodic. It was, mini, quote-unquote mini movies, or whatever you want to say, in beginning, middle, and end. Mm-hmm. But I wish they would have written Skeletor to have more of a competency as the episodes went along. His competency varies so... I mean, it's like, it's kind of like that... when you overload a boiler or something, or when somebody's trying to, launch a nuke or something, or a nuclear reactor, and it's kind of like teetering right there in the middle, and then it automatically goes into the red. It just, oh god, Skeletor's competency. Colossor Awakes. A beast he's gonna awake this stone beast, and it's gonna destroy everything for him. Right.
So, go ahead.
No.
So I've already angered Tim by putting Beauty and the Beast on my list. Let's try.
Oh no, I'm gonna anger him much more.
Let's try to anger one of our only other fans, Count Marzo here, with my my number 2, which you already talked about, which is the Eternia flower.
Okay, so before we anger him, we gotta at least acknowledge he did reply to us on Twitter and told us why he likes it. It's because this was the episode that he and his friends used to watch on VHS all the time. He taped it off a TV. We understand that, Marzo man, but it still doesn't excuse how horrible the episode it is.
Yeah. Count Marzo plans to put the youth of Eternia under a spell by introducing them to the addictive plant, the Black Nightmare. His first victim is Boy of the Year, Jono. I don't care if you had this episode on Laserdisc. There's no reason to like this episode. I don't care. I mean, I guess I don't want to say anything, but I guess if you're a huge drug fan, like, you can like this episode because this is a drug episode. It's super heavy-handed. There's no reason why Jono wants that flower. Why are the recurring characters in this episode completely of a different design and color than the first time they appeared? Why do we have a Boy of the Year contest? That's so creepy. I can't even get into it. I went off on this episode so much that I'm trying to tame myself. The voicing is so inconsistent with Chad, as are the drawings, as are the visuals. There's a ship that somehow they didn't see that they should have seen. Adam is gone where there's no explanation for why he is. Why was Marzo living in Trala? Was he were the boys not in Eternia not living up to his expectations, so he had to go to Trala to try to feed on them?
Oh god, you're just fueling the fire for my number 1.
Had to waste 30 seconds just panning the world because they hadn't timed anything in this episode whatsoever. I hate when a half-hour episode, which already has so little time to do anything, can't fill it and has to waste time by panning scenery. That's so stupid. So between the Boy of the Year, Count Marzo being a creep, and drugs being the central idea of this episode, I hated everything about the Eternia flower.
Yep.
All right. What's your number 2?
Beauty and the Beast.
I agree.
Beauty and the Beast. I'll say this again. because we've got this coming up on GCRN. Amy, Nicole, and I are launching Showtime Synergy, our Gem review podcast. In Gem, there is a Beauty and the Beast episode, but it is done so much better than this. This episode of Beauty and the Beast, I would rather watch the 90s, the early 90s Beauty and the Beast television series, and that's horrible. I would rather watch that.
You can't just take the title off and say that this is a regular episode. This is the beauty, the whole idea of the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
This is an awful episode.
Yes. Number 1, sir.
My number 1, you've already talked about. I will go back to season 1. Doug Booth, not a big fan, my friend. Episode 28 overall, The Valley of Power. A thief named Danavis captures the egg of the Great Mother Roe in the Valley of Power and upsets her. He-Man and Teela must help her get her baby back. Baby back. Anyway.
Baby back.
I'm pretty sure if I was to count that I had more Snake Mountain moments in this episode than any other episode ever. Adam just had He-Man strength, holding up Cringer by his tail. How is Adam doing that? Do you not know the difference between Adam and He-Man, Doug Booth? Why do the heroes want to gain fake strength? That makes no sense. We have magic that somehow has multiple effects. We have Battle Cat and Teela speaking to the mama bird somehow. We have the whole premise that they're going to leave Orko as the only one at the palace. That would never happen. Yeah. We have so much animal talking in this episode, it's ridiculous. We have this trip back and forth that gets so repetitive, it's stupid. We have the sorcerers needing potions for some reason. We have the effects of this thing will wear off. Then why does the bird need an anecdote? At one point, I literally wrote down, can this episode please end? And then we have the masks thing where they throw the anecdote to He-Man. And then we have, finally, Danavis turning good with basically a blink of an eye. This episode was god-awful. Valley of Power is the worst episode of the entire series, and that's saying something when Beauty and the Beast and Eternia Flower and then Like Father, Like Daughter came right before it. But Valley of Power takes the cake for me.
What did I give Search for a Son?
Search for a Son. Is that your number 1?
I don't know. What did I give that episode?
Hold on. You gotta give me a second to find Search for the Sun here.
Pull it out of your pocket already.
I don't have everything in my pocket, sir. You gotta give me a second. I only have so many things in my pocket. And Search for a Sun, you gave a 4.
What was I thinking? Okay, this is easily the worst episode of the series.
You gave it a 4.
I know, but this is easily one of the worst.
3.5, and you gave it a 4.
I know.
Where did you come up with this?
I rewatched this episode, and it is by far easily one of, if not the worst episode of the series, because they actually show you sexual deviance. Like, swear to God, Count Marzo, what the hell is your deal, dude? Like, okay, no, great. It's Mechanix Origin. I love that part of the episode. Take that out. This is nothing but Count Marzo going after kids again.
All right.
It just what episode of the podcast did we talk about that one?
Episode 122 overall, so not very many episodes ago.
It was episode 43 or 42, something like that. Go back to those episodes of the podcast, folks. Listen to our complete breakdown. I think it's the only time in so far in Powers of Grayskull where I had to actually put a disclaimer on the front of the podcast.
Was that my fault?
Yeah.
My bad.
Well, no, it was kind of my fault because I mentioned, like, I had written down that, oh my God, Count Marzo is a sexual deviant, and then you took it and ran.
Yes, I did. All right, interesting. A twist there with our number 1 pick, something that he gave a 4 during the podcast. I have one honorable mention. The only other was 0 or 1 that I didn't get in my top 10, and that was Things That Go Bump in the Night. That was about Prince Glitch of Salacia.
Prince Glitch.
So that was stupid, but didn't quite make my top 10. But
God.
Anyways, those are our worst episodes of the series. We'll be right back to go over some ratings and all kinds of other fun stuff, including the writers and Power Swords and Havoc staff stats. So we'll be right back.
I said my patience grows thin.
Grows how?
Thin. Very thin.
Oh, no, boss. You aren't too thin. If anything, I'd say you look a little fat.
You tin-tongued dolt. I'm talking about my patience, not my body.
Yes, Skeletor.
Castle Grayskull is the source of ultimate power. Power which must be mine. I have tried to conquer it 6 times.
7.
No! 6, you flea-bitten fur brain. The first one didn't count. It was only practice. I was teasing the poor fool.
I guess He-Man can't take a joke.
He-Man? I've been foiled by that muscle-bound moron one too many times. I will defeat He-Man.
You'd need an army to defeat He-Man.
An army? Yes. I need an army. But all I have is a robot fleet, machines to pilot my ships, and a couple of stupid assistants. I'm talking to you, you dim-witted duo. What is it that holds your attention more than the mighty Skeletor?
All right, thanks for sticking with us. You've heard our best episodes of the series. You've heard our least favorite episodes of the series. We're going to spend this next section going over our overall ratings and look at the writers kind of to go along with that in this section. So as you've heard us throughout the entire podcast run, we always give a rating from 0 to 5 Orcos or Battle Cats that we've given out throughout each episode. Well, we've tallied all the numbers to see exactly how we feel about it. I'm going to break it down by half seasons, first of all. So Season 1, the first half of Season 1, my average rating was 3.39. Mike, your average rating for the first half of Season 1 was 3.42.
Yeah.
So you had a 3.42, I had a 3.39, so you liked that one slightly better. We both gave it an above average rating. Then we moved into the second half of Season 1. I went from 3.39 in the first half down to 3.21. You went from 3.42 down to 2.53 in the second half of Season 1. So you almost a whole point off there, where I only went 1/10 of a point. So our Season 1 total for all of Season 1, I was at 3.29. You were at 2.95. So apparently I like Season 1 slightly better than you. Moving into Season 2, the first half, I gave it a 3.29. You gave it a 2.7. Then we move into the second half of Season 2, which was my favorite half season out of the whole series. I gave it a 3.59. You gave it a 3.19, which was just slightly lower than the first half of Season 1, which apparently was your favorite part of the entire series. So our Season 2 total was me at 3.44 and you at 2.94, which means overall for the entire series, my total series rating, 3.37 Battle Cats, 3.37. Mike, you're at 2.95 Orcos. So you are slightly under 3. I'm a little bit over 3. What are your thoughts on the rankings there?
That's crazy.
The only half a season you liked better than me was the first half of Season 1. Otherwise, every single thing outside of that, I scored higher than you.
No.
So I apparently like the series a little bit more than Mike. I think it's just because he's older than me and he's grumpy.
No, shut up. I'm only a year older than you. Shut the hell up. No, honestly, this whole journey, the whole 3 years that we've been doing this, it, as the episode, like, sure, I'm sure you're going to say how many 5s we've each done and whatever 4s, whatever in a minute, but like, I can only think of like maybe 10 episodes out of 130 that I've given, like, really, really liked and enjoyed. The rest are either middle of the road or just god-awful horrible.
Well, another thing that you can see that both of us agreed on, we both thought Season 1 got worse as it went, whereas we both thought Season 2 got better as it went.
Well, until that last...
Well, I'm just saying the first half, we both increased from the first half to the second half, where it was the opposite in the first season. So I found that somewhat interesting. I did not tally up the individual numbers. So
oh, you didn't?
So no, I don't have that with me without doing a whole bunch of counting. But I did want to take another quick look, though, at how the writers fared into that, because obviously, based on how good or how bad an episode is going to be, mostly centralized on the writer. Mm-hmm. And we had quite a few writers that participated in this series overall. 43 writers. All right, so 43 writers. First, I have the information for who wrote the most episodes, and then we're going to go into the average rating. I took your rating and my rating for every episode, and averaged them, and then every episode that the writer had took those numbers and averaged those. So we have the average rating per writer as well. So first, for who wrote the most, do you have a guess?
It has to be Larry DiTilio or it has to be Larry.
All right, so the person who wrote the most episodes, in either, some of these were in conjunction with another writer, so I will say that, but as long as they're listed as one of the writers, it counted. 16 episodes for Larry DiTilio.
Yeah.
Then we had Paul Dini with 11, David Wise with 9, J. Michael Straczynski with 9, Robbie London with 8, Doug Booth with 8, J. Bryn Stevens with 7. So those are your
7 too many.
So those are the most people. Everybody else was 4 or less.
Right.
The 4s were Roby Gorin, Anthony Zalewski, Richard Party, Robert Lamb, and then the Ron and Sam Schultz duo. So DiTilio, Dini, Wise, Straczynski, Booth, London, and Stevens were your top, 7 as far as how many they wrote. But that doesn't mean that they were all good. Now, if you had to rate somebody, this is a little bit more difficult because obviously the average rating for someone who only wrote 1 or 2 episodes is going to be a little bit skewed. Because if we were going just based on not putting a limit on it, Bob Ford only wrote 2 episodes. They both got an average rating of 5 from us. So he had an average rating of 5. So there was also Ken Cinnamon and Karen Wingrad. They only wrote 1 episode, and we gave that a 5. So those don't really count to me. I'm gonna eliminate anybody that only wrote 1 or 2 episodes, which means that the best writer, according to our ratings, with an average rating of 4.04, was Paul Dini.
Of course.
So Paul Dini at 4.04. Next would be Larry DiTilio with 3.91. Then J. Michael Straczynski with 3.81. Then actually Misty Stewart, who only wrote 3 episodes, but she comes in at 3.66. Mark Scott Zickery, 3.33. Robbie London, 3.31. Robert White, 3. David Wise, 2.94. Roby Gorin, 2.93. So those are your highest rated people. If you're going for the most episodes and the lowest rating, Doug Booth, 2.53. Robert Lamb, 2.5. Anthony Zalewski, 2.43. And J. Bryn Stevens, 2.53. So Don Heckman, 1.9. And Janice Diamond, 2.33. So those are your worst rated people. Any surprises there?
No.
Surprised that Paul Dini and Larry DiTilio and Straczynski are your top 3?
No, not at all. Because they do. The only time that I think I really didn't like something Straczynski did is when the plot didn't make sense. His comedy with Skeletor and all that stuff is absolutely amazing. Paul Dini, I mean, I've been watching Paul Dini's writing on, Batman and Superman and Justice League for years now, and Batman Beyond and all that stuff. So I know Paul Dini is an excellent, excellent writer. Same thing with Larry DiTilio. I mean, just amazing.
I can't stress enough that we had no idea who was writing these episodes when we were rating them.
Right.
We didn't base this on. We're not fanboys of these people, and we're just rating them. I mean, you could see that because David Wise only is at a 2.94, which is somewhat surprising. And
he only wrote, what did you say, 9 episodes? Yeah, he only wrote 9 episodes out of 130.
But he had one that we rated 0.5 on average. He had one that we rated 4.75 and one that we rated 5. But he also had one at 2. So, I mean, we were very fair with that.
Yeah. And, David Wise himself has said this was not his favorite show to work on because he's not into this kind of a show. He has said in interviews in the past that he was more interested at the time in Transformers, once Transformers started, than he was writing for. Once Transformers came along, he essentially left He-Man. I mean,
right.
I've heard him say this in interviews. So,
The biggest takeaway is Doug Booth, stay away from anything I love.
I don't know. Some things he's done are better than some of the other unknown writers.
A single episode rated above 3.75.
Okay, not in this,
right.
But
so that is the writer breakdown, which I found interesting, especially, and I didn't even know when I ranked my top 10 episodes how many of those people would show up. I had no clue that we were going to have so many Paul Dini episodes with a few of these other guys sprinkled in there. So a good look at the writers. I don't know. Hopefully one day we'll get to talk to a couple of them about this series. So very cool stuff from there. Any other thoughts on the writing or the rankings? All right, we're going to take one more quick break then, and we'll be back with the Power Swords and the Havoc Staffs.
Ah, here you are. I thought I should find you here, my dear. Man-at-Arms did a nice job of rebuilding your ship, didn't he?
Yes, and I'm glad. This ship means so much to me.
It means a great deal to me, too. After all, this was the ship that brought you to me. By the grace of Eternia, what is that? Are you all right? What happened?
Meteor strike. Hit the engines. Fuel lines blew. Couldn't hold it. Oh, who are you? And where on earth am I?
I know not of Earth. I am Randor, King of Eternia.
Eternia?
You need rest. Return with me to my palace. You shall be my guest while you recover.
But
I think you will find it comfortable and pleasant. In a few days you will be well and can return to your Earth.
a few days, you said. But I fell in love with you and with this planet. And I just couldn't bring myself to leave. Yet there are moments when this royal life can seem too calm, at least compared to my days as a space pilot.
Yes, Skeletor has not been causing much trouble of late, and I, for one, have been glad for the chance to relax. Speaking of relaxation, we'll be going to the beach for a picnic after the joust. Will you join us, my dear?
No, not now. Though I'm sure it will be lovely. I'd just like to spend a few more moments with the Rainbow Explorer.
Of course, my dear. I quite understand. I shall see you upon our return.
All right, thanks for sticking with us, if you have stuck with us. And it's time for Power Swords and Havoc Staffs. We've been giving them out for 44 episodes, for 130 of the actual series episodes. We've been giving out hardware, and now it's time to see who the ultimate winners are. Whose trophy cases are the biggest? Do you want to start? I'm going to give you the choice here, sir. Should we talk about Havoc Staffs first, or should we talk about Power Swords first?
Let's talk about Havoc Staffs first, because I'm really assuming that the bitch is at the top of the list on this one.
Well, I've broken it down by person.
Yeah.
I awarded 47 Havoc Staffs along the way.
Okay.
You awarded 71 Havoc Staffs along the way. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to break it down by somewhat of groupings that I have done here.
Okay.
We'll start with me. I gave 9 Havoc Staffs to Tila. I gave 8 Havoc Staffs to various writers. Mm-hmm. I gave 7 Havoc Staffs to various kids.
Okay.
All right. Everybody else only received 1 Havoc Staff at the most. Mm-hmm. For you, 23 Havoc Staffs to various writers.
Yep.
11 Havoc Staffs to Tila.
What?
10 Havoc Staffs to various kids.
Uh-huh.
3 Havoc Staffs to the Sorceress. 2 Havoc Staffs apiece for Orko, He-Man, and Evil Lyn. Mm-hmm. So those are the multiple Havoc Staff winners. So if you add that up together, that's 31 for the writers, 20 for Tila, and 17 for the kids. So those are our winners of the Havoc Staff competition. If I'm going to go through and give some interesting ones, you gave a Havoc Staff to the animation team one time.
Yep.
You gave a Havoc Staff to Jay Scheimer one time. You gave a Havoc Staff to... I thought there was one other weird one that you gave. Nope. My weird ones, I gave one to the animation team. I gave one to the Cosmic Comet. I gave one to the drawing crew. I gave one to Evil Warriors in general. And then, let's see, I gave one to the Power of Love concept. And I gave one to you.
Nope, that one doesn't count.
So those were the weird ones.
Nope, that one doesn't count.
Those were the weird ones that we handed out. Any surprise or any thoughts on the Havoc Staffs?
No. But I'm surprised that my writers are higher than Tila, honestly, though.
So writers, Tila, kids.
Yep.
All right. Let's get into Power Swords then. Like I said, I handed 47 Havoc Staffs. You handed 71 Havoc Staffs. I gave 100 Power Swords. You gave 109. So we're much more generous with our Power Swords than our Havoc Staffs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to break it down a little bit, if I can here. It's a little bit harder since we have 100 of them. But I have a very close battle for the top of mine, actually. And I'm somewhat surprised with who came out in first. Most Power Swords for me. 10 for He-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I did not expect that. Then I have a tie, 9 for Skeletor and 9 for Orko. Next up for me would be 7 for Cringer. Then I have another tie. I have 4 for Writers. I have 4 for Ram Man. I have 4.
Wow.
I have 4 for Prince Adam, since we kind of broke it down.
Yeah.
I have 3 for Evil Lynn, 3 for Granomir, 3 for Tila, actually, 2 for Zodak, 2 for Stratos, 2 for the Sorceress, 2 for Merman, 2 for Queen Marlena, 2 for Manny Faces, and that would be it. So He-Man's my winner as far as Power Swords with Skeletor and Orko right behind it.
That's kind of surprising.
I am somewhat surprised. For interesting ones that I gave out, let's see if there are any. I gave Castle Grayskull one, so a place, so that's kind of interesting. I gave the Evil Warriors, even though I gave them a Havoc Staff in one of them, I gave them a Power Sword as well in a different one. I gave Herc the Elephant one, and the Hollywag, so...
The Hollywag.
I gave the Mini Skeletors one.
Yep.
And I gave the Shaping Staff one. So let's see, what else? The Sky Tree. So those are my interesting ones. As for you and your 109 Power Swords, any guess as to who you gave the most?
It's gotta be Cringer, Orko, or Skeletor.
All right. You're number one at 18. 18 Power Swords for Cringer.
Yeah, I knew it would be Cringer.
Very close behind that, 17 Power Swords for Orko. Mm-hmm. So 18 and 17, and then you know yourself pretty well, 12 for Skeletor. So
yeah,
18,
you kind of figured.
17, and then 12. After that, you go down to 8 Power Swords for He-Man. So you're somewhat in agreement after you got those other ones out of the way. Then you have 4 for Ram Man.
Mm-hmm.
You got 3 for Adam.
Yeah.
3 for Battle Cat.
Mm-hmm.
3 for Granomir.
Mm-hmm.
2 for the Writers. 2 for Tila.
That's a mistake. That has to be a mistake. 2 for
Man at Arms. 2 for the Attack Track. And 2 for everybody. Twice you gave everybody a Power Sword. So some interesting ones that you gave out. You gave a Power Sword to Alan Oppenheimer. Yep. You gave a Power Sword to a battle scene from one of the episodes.
Yep.
All right. You gave you also gave a Power Sword to the Evil Warriors at one point. Let's see here. Any other interesting ones? You also gave a Power Sword to the Mini Skeletors. You gave a Power Sword.
Wait. Didn't I give all of them a Power Sword? So you have to count up the Mini Skeletors and then... No, yeah. You have to count up the Mini Skeletors, how many were in that scene, and then they each get one. So,
You also gave a Power Sword to the Sky Tree like me. You gave a power sword to the power sword itself.
Wait a minute. When the hell did that happen?
When it appeared in that one episode, you gave it a power sword, I believe. Or when I don't know, you gave a power sword a power sword. So those are the interesting power swords. I guess if you add those up, then let's see, your 17 Orcos and mine 9 would be 26 for Orco. We'd be at 21 for Skeletor. We would be at 25 for Cringer and 18 for He-Man. So those are our top award winners. Any thoughts on the power swords?
No, I mean, I was kind of, assuming that Cringer would get the most for the most part. I do remember that, that happening. So
yeah, so for the losers, it's Tila, it's the writers, and it's the kids. For the winners, it's Orko, Cringer, He-Man, and Skeletor. All right, take one more break, and we're going to be back with a whole bunch of look at the characters, our favorite masters of the universe, our favorite evil warriors, our least favorite of each, and then some look at some of the other characters that were outside of those groupings and who we liked and who we didn't like. So we'll be right back with a whole bunch of character takes.
Skeletor help someone? Oh, brother.
Silence, you little bag of wind.
All right, we're back. We're going to be looking at some of our favorite and least favorite characters overall. We're going to start with our favorite masters of the universe. Who did you like that was a master? Who's your favorite?
All right, so favorites for the masters. We have at number 1, Battlecat and Cringer, because for me they are the same. It's two personalities in one body.
Right.
So I'm counting them as one character, even though it's two. It's two different. It's basically a coin.
Right.
I absolutely love every time Cringer tries to run away from the power sword. His character had a lot more growth and a lot more depth to it than I thought originally. Because, like I said, I don't remember. I honestly did not remember half of this series between the time I was a kid and the time we started the podcast. That's the whole point of us, obviously, during the podcast. But Battlecat and Cringer, I love Battlecat's roar. I love when he goes into action, even though some of the stuff he tries to do doesn't really make sense to me because he's a cat. I mean, some of this, I can see him pushing a rock and stuff, but I don't know, there are certain things that Battlecat has done in 130 episodes that just make absolutely zero sense to me that a cat could do those kind of things. So he is tops on my list. Also on my list, He-Man, Prince Adam, again, two sides of the same coin. Absolutely love, that very first scene with him at Grey Skull, and the drawbridge shall open, just the music behind him saying that, the whole effect of Castle Grayskull, just absolutely awesome. Other characters that I've written down here, Ram Man, good old Rammy. I love Ram Man. I love his bling sound effect. That's what I love the most about him, is his sound effect he makes when he goes bouncing around the place. I like Man-at-Arms, but after a while, Man-at-Arms kind of grained on me a bit because he just wouldn't loosen up around Orko. I do like the character. He's a really great father figure to everybody. He's honestly more of a father to Adam than Randor is. Right. Stratos, absolutely love him. Mechanic for the few times he showed up. Manny Faces, and Attack Track and Granomir kind of get a tie because Granomir was only in, 5 episodes?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, but I do absolutely love Granomir and Attack Track. Attack Track is just amazing.
All right. Good choices. I'll have to add Attack Track. I like him too. I'll add him as my 4th. Otherwise, my number 3 would be Battlecat and Cringer. Again, liked a lot of the moments, especially the Cringer moments. So, as we showed with our power swords, we gave a lot out to Cringer. So, great comedic relief there. I will echo your sentiment with Stratos. He outside of the main ones, he's probably my favorite. I love the design of him. I love the look of him. He can fly. I like the bird people.
Yep.
So I love Stratos, and then the one that I know I probably like more than a lot of people, but he's probably one of my favorite characters of the entire series overall, and that is Zodak. I love Zodak. He's got that mystery to him. He's got the power that can even surpass the sorceress, basically. He's got a cool look to him. So, excuse me. So Zodak is probably my favorite of all of the... I include him in the Masters. Mm-hmm. So, as far as our least favorite Masters of the Universe, I will start. Clearly, it's Teela.
Yeah.
So Teela.
I mean, I don't even need to go. It's Teela.
It's Teela. I do have one other one that I don't really like that much. I don't like Buzz Off that much. I don't know if it was the voice or the look, and sometimes his eyes are always shut, but I didn't really enjoy Buzz Off.
He wasn't shown enough. That's my thing.
Right.
He just wasn't.
I would have put Mossman in there, but I liked his last appearance. I would have needed to see more of like Fisto and Cyclone to really get a good look. And I probably would have put Manny Faces in the best if I would have seen him more. So that some of them I didn't get to see enough. But Buzz Off, honestly, I didn't need to see much more of. I just don't care for that character. So Buzz Off and Teela for me. Is it just Teela for you?
Yeah. She is easily the worst character in the entire series.
All right. Well, let's get into the evil warriors then. Clearly, people should know who a couple of mine are going to be. Skeletor, obviously, he's hilarious. He's got some of the best lines in the series. We gave him a ton of power swords, so Skeletor's on there. And then, obviously, one of my personal favorites, Mike. Who is he?
Merman, obviously.
Yeah, Merman is probably number 2 for me. I actually like Evil Lyn a lot. I think Evil Lyn's way better a character than Teela if you're talking about female characters in the series.
Oh, absolutely.
And then maybe my 2 more under the radar ones that I'll throw out there, that would be Modulok and Cobra Khan. I like those 2 characters. I like Modulok's kind of, he's on the outskirts, kind of like Tarantulas for me for Beast Wars. Cobra Khan, just because he represents all the snake people for me in a very cool way, and he's very conniving and clever. So I like those 2 guys as well. What about you? What are your favorite evil warriors?
For me, it's got to be. That's the schedule. Wrong document, folks. Skeletor, obviously. You know, anytime he has comedic moments, or anytime he has, like, if an evil warrior like a Beastman or a Trapjaw does something stupid, and Alan Oppenheimer has a line where he is sarcastic. He's not trying to be he's not trying to be comedic Skeletor, but when he becomes sarcastic Skeletor, it's just absolutely amazing. There was a line recently in one of the most recent end of season 2 episodes that we talked about in a couple podcasts ago, where Skeletor's like, "Oh, it was about 2 bad." He says, "They say 2 heads are better than 1. I think they're wrong." Right. It's just, Skeletor. Also on my list are Panther. Panther is not seen enough.
No,
like,
I did not expect that.
Oh my god, like, come on. It's Panther. And the whole point of He-Man versus Skeletor is also to have Battle Cat versus Panther.
Panther needed a voice.
Well, I don't necessarily think Panther needed a voice. I like the standard roar growl thing that they used for him. I don't necessarily think he needed a voice, but I just think that he should have been used so much more.
Yeah.
Eva Lynn, I like her, as far as story-wise, I like her better in the 2002 cartoon series, because they actually give her a backstory. But here, she is amazing. She has great magic. She sometimes wants to take over and never really gets to, but she's always also in support of Skeletor for the most part. Once again, another character is not used enough in this series, and I just cannot believe they did not do this enough. Triclops is so underappreciated.
Yeah, I almost put him on my list too.
I like Beastman. He's alright. He has his moments. I like when he starts talking to himself, like if Skeletor scolds him and he's like, one of these days I'm just going to take over. I'm just going to throw you down, down the falls of Snake Mountain, and boom, Beastman will be in charge. I love Too Bad. Two Bed's just hilarious. I love that kind of character that has the two heads and they start arguing with each other. It's just amazing. We didn't see enough of him, but Webstore. I really dug Webstore.
Those two, if I would have saw more of them, they probably could have been on my best list. Again, I just didn't see enough of them.
But that's it for me.
All right. As far as least favorite Evil Warriors, and I might give these two a pass because I think it's just a product of us seeing too much of them, whereas we didn't see enough of some of the other characters. So I do have Beastman and Trapjaw written down. Just because, like I said, I got too tired of them. If they would have been more in moderation, I probably would have liked them a lot more. But I really would have wished some of the episodes they were gone and we got more of, like you said, Triclops, especially Triclops, but even like a Two Bad or a Webstore or whatever. So I put them on my list. Outside of that, I know he only appeared briefly, but Jitsu, I thought that was a terrible character. And then the other two that I really could have done almost without completely would have been Clawful and Whiplash. I just didn't really care for those two characters. They seemed just too generic, too bland for me. I think the other people had a lot more interesting parts to them. So what about you?
I'm gonna go 3-2-1 order.
Okay.
Basically 2 and 1 are tied for 1, but one is worse than the other. Number 3, least favorite villain character. The sexual deviant himself, Count Marzo. He is so... I really thought I remembered him as a kid doing something better, or doing something more devious than what he has done in this series, and he is just god-awful. But worse than him? Clawful. Clawful is just stupid. That's the only reason why it makes him a worst character. He's just dumb.
Yeah.
And he's not used that well. And overused. So overused. We could have used Merman so much more than this character. Whiplash. Whiplash, just no.
Yeah, I agree. Whiplash and Clawful especially.
Did not do anything worthy of Skeletor.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what about our favorite and least favorite, just overall genuinely good characters outside of the actual masters? So just any good characters or anybody that's not bad, typically. For my least, I only have one, even though I really liked the episode. Lady Edwina. Did not care for her, and I will put a collective of all the kids in this one for least favorite, just general characters. As far as the characters I liked the most, that weren't masters, I know you kind of already listed them in the masters group, but I got Granomir. I really enjoyed Granomir, and one of his episodes was the Sky Tree, which I thought was really cool. As far as Stratos people, Delora I thought was cool. I'll give one to the Trollan Uncle Montork. I liked him. Katrina, the cat chick. You gave her a power sword. I really liked her. I thought she could have been seen again. That was really cool. I also gave a power sword to a guy named Kor. I thought he was a pretty darn cool character overall, and one that I thought could have been a regular character as far as the look goes was the Bear Man. I don't know if you remember him, but the Bear Man
episode was
he almost looks like Panther from Thundercats, but I thought he was a cool looking character that I really could have done more. I could have seen him more, and I would have been fine with that. So those were some of the characters. If I had to pick like an actual favorite, I probably would go with Granomir as my favorite regular, just general good character. So what about you? Good characters that you liked or didn't like?
Most of it I didn't like. I have to mention these two by name, and then I'll lump everyone into Jeremy and Ed Weiner. They could get married and have even worse kids. And then 90% of the kids in the series, there was 10. Like the Star Child, after a while, I didn't mind her because once we saw her again, I liked her more. In the first episode we saw her in, because we didn't understand what her deal was, I kind of didn't care for her. But all the kids in this series are. This is gonna make you. This is gonna make you. This is gonna make Tim. This is gonna make everybody just jump out of their chairs. I would prefer Scott and T-Bob over 90% of the children in this series.
So would I.
Scott and T-Bob are horrible. Don't get me wrong. Scott and T-Bob from Mask are horrible characters, but they're not as bad as 90% of the children in this series.
Anybody that you liked?
Squinch and the rest of the widgets. I love the widgets. The widgets are awesome.
Nice. We haven't talked about the widgets, so good to get that.
That's what we need. We need an updated series with the widgets and they meet the Burbills. That would be awesome. He-Man and Thundercats together.
And the Trolls could be in there.
Yeah. Okay, other ones. Now that I'm thinking of it, I do like Driel. I wish there was more of Orko and Driel.
Yeah, I can see that. As far as villains go that weren't Evil Warriors, the ones I liked the least, I know you already mentioned him too when we were talking about Evil Warriors, but Count Marzo and his sidekick, the Chimera or whatever you want to call him, they're, first of all, creepy.
No.
Second of all, they're, I think, wanted felons. Third, they changed their look, especially the Chimera is like 3 different looks, so that's not cool. But Count Marzo's just a creep, so I have to put him in one of my least favorite. He had potential, but motives are not good there. As far as the ones I liked, some one-off kind of bad guys. Dark Dream, I thought he was cool looking. I got 2 masters, the Slave Master and the Game Master. I just thought they had cool looks. Most of this is going to be about look and how they came across. Mask, Masque. He had like a mask with like horns coming out of it. He looked really cool. And then another character that I think could have been a regular character, and I would have loved to see him more, and that was Batros. The Horde. He had like the Horde outfit on, and he looked like he could have been a regular villain of some sort. So I would have loved to have seen him more. What about you? Evil people that you liked or disliked?
It's probably just going to be dislike on this one.
Okay.
Because that's the biggest thing. If you go back and you listen to the other 44 or 43 episodes of the podcast, I wanted more Evil Warriors. I didn't want random one-off villains. I didn't like Negator. No. And Morningstar, the dragon that had to fight Granite. Just no, not at all. If I had to, I'm trying to think if there were. Yeah, no, there. I guess I could put in an honorable mention for the 1,000-year-old people that were asleep that wanted to take over, but they learned their the couple with the.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where the old dude woke up first and he's old and she doesn't recognize him.
Yeah.
And that whoever the hell they are. I'm sorry, folks.
Oh, that's fine.
Didn't write their names down. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Take one last break then. We'll be back to give you our thoughts on the voicing of the show, the voice actors involved, and then just look at some of the feedback that we've gotten and our general take on this whole journey. So that's what's coming up next. Last break.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying, I'm hurrying!
Hi, Mike and Kevin. This is Toon Master Tim, and I wanted to call and leave feedback for the wrap-up of the Tales of Eternia podcast on the Powers of Grayskull podcast series. You know, just starting off, I've really, I just want to say overall, I've really enjoyed the podcast. You guys have done a great job. I love the format. I love that we go to Castle Grayskull for those good moments in the series, and that we have the Snake Mountain moments where we highlight the not so good moments, and then we actually give out the awards for the things that we like in the episodes. And yeah, overall the series has just been a lot of fun. When I first got the BCI DVDs, I sat down and tried to watch some of the episodes, and I found that I couldn't watch more than maybe one or two at a time. And it wasn't really a show that I had grown up on, so I didn't have the nostalgia factor. I was just looking at it for what it was. And I liked the sword and sorcery and adventure genres, so I really thought I would like it. But I had a little trouble getting into it, and so I put it on hold knowing that you guys were going to do the podcast, and picked it up when the podcast series started, watching it with you guys each week. And, you know, I found that I really did enjoy it. There's a lot to like about He-Man. And I really had hoped that there would be more characters show up in the series, knowing how many toys that were created for the series, how many characters there were. But overall, we had quite a few characters show up. Some of my favorites are Merman and Manny Faces. Mossman, he was one that I really enjoyed seeing a couple times in season 2. So Stratos was another one that I really liked. And I'm missing some more, but there are some really great characters, some really fun moments. I like that they made Skeletor sort of a more humorous character in season 2. And one of the things that I really like about the He-Man series is the consistency. Because with a lot of cartoon series, especially when they have so many episodes like He-Man, I mean, He-Man had 2 65-episode seasons. That's a lot of episodes. And you have a lot of series that over time, maybe after the first season or maybe second season, things start to change. The story direction changes. Maybe a new story editor comes on board, a new head writer perhaps, or a new producer. And the show will take a turn. Sometimes the voice actors will change. They'll come and go. We've seen that recently with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series on Nickelodeon. And sometimes there are good reasons for that. But when you look at He-Man, it was consistent throughout the entire series. And in season 2, I think that, as you guys have said, it actually got better. I think that overall the episodes in season 2 were written a little bit better in a lot of cases. I know that I've ranked a lot of them higher than I did some of the ones in season 1. I think that the writers just had a really good grasp of what they were trying to do with the series. There was more continuity with Larry DiTillio and J. Michael Straczynski and some of those other writers, taking some of the elements from that first part of the series in season 1 and bringing some of those elements back in season 2 and have some more continuity, which I think just makes for an overall more enjoyable series. Especially one like He-Man that was told in the 80s where it was pretty much just episodic. So, I just really enjoyed the consistency of it, knowing that the voices didn't change, the characters were the same. We didn't see any crazy character changes like, this person needs to have a different hairstyle, or, when you change the color of their clothing or whatever. I mean, even He-Man with all the different toys that they created with different battle armor and stuff like that, and same with Skeletor, they stay consistent. And I know that's probably in large part just due to the fact that Filmation was trying to save as much money as possible by reusing animation, but still, I actually appreciated that. And we kept the same cast of characters for the voices. So it was a great series. I really enjoyed it. I will occasionally go back and revisit it. I have some of my favorite episodes, as you guys do as well. I just find it a still entertaining cartoon, but looking forward to moving on. And, of course, I'm going to be there with you guys as you continue your journey. So thank you very much.
Not a chance, muscle brain. I don't do things for humanity. I do them for me. Wait, I will control Eternia all by myself.
Not as long as my friends and I are here to stop you.
Maybe not this time, but I'll be back. Count on it.
I don't get it. Why doesn't Skeletor use his powers to do something good?
Orko, some people are just blind. They don't know right from wrong.
When I do something wrong, Man-at-Arms sends me to my room. Too bad it's not that easy with Skeletor.
You know, that's not a bad idea, Orko.
It's not?
Uh-huh. Next time Skeletor does something wrong, we'll send him to your room.
My room?
From what Man-at-Arms tells me, your room is such a mess that Skeletor would never find his way out.
All right, I'll go clean it up right now. Want to help me?
Glad to, my little friend. Don't wait for us. I have a feeling we're going to be a while.
All right. Wrapping things up here, just a couple more things to go over. First off, we wanted to take a quick look at some of the voice actors involved. Obviously, this show only had so many voice actors. I've got some stats for you because I've added every single character that appears in the entire series. That any speaking character has been added to the He-Man Behind the Voice Actors page. Mm-hmm. So we have everybody there. Lou Scheimer voiced 154 characters over the course of the series. 154. Right now, as far as behind the voice actors, that ranks 3 as far as the most roles in a single show. So 154 for Lou Scheimer. 77.
What are the top 2?
Trey Parker in South Park. He has 436 roles so far on there, and Seth Green and Robot Chicken, which are completely different types of shows. Obviously.
Yeah, true.
Otherwise, you have like Jerry Nelson in Sesame Street has 142. So Lou Scheimer with 154. John Irwin ranks 8th on the site right now with 77. Mm-hmm. Alan Oppenheimer ranks 13th with 73, and Linda Gary ranks 17th with 59. So a lot, obviously, between those individual people. Also, if you're interested, the show itself has, as far as speaking characters go, 410, which is the 12th highest right now on the site. So 410 that I've added, and that's basically every single person that has spoken I've captured, basically. Even guards that only say like one thing or something like that. So outside of those individuals, we obviously did have Erica Scheimer doing a couple things there. We had Jay Scheimer, Lou Scheimer's wife, a couple times. We had George DeCenzo, who also voiced a character. So just going over that, what was your opinion of the voice work? Obviously, with that many people doing, or with that few people doing that many voices, you're going to have a lot of repetition. But there's still some good stuff in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love the voice acting. I love Alan Oppenheimer as Skeletor, as Man-at-Arms, as Merman.
Cringer.
As Cringer / Battlecat. I love Lou Scheimer as Orko. Just a nice play off of Alan Oppenheimer between Orko and Man-at-Arms.
Let me break down some of the main roles real quick for each person. So Lou Scheimer has Orko, King Randor, Trapjaw, Stratos, Manny-Faces, Mechaneck, Zodak, Mossman, Triclops, Clawful, Modulok, Spikor, Too Bad, and Cobra Khan. Those are all Lou Scheimer.
Right.
All right. If you break down John Irwin, obviously He-Man, Prince Adam, Ram Man, Beast Man, Whiplash, and Granomir and Count Marzor are his main ones. Alan Oppenheimer, like I said, Battlecat and Cringer, Man-at-Arms, Skeletor, Buzz-Off, Merman are the main ones for that. Linda Gary, obviously Tila, Sorceress, Evelyn, and at times the Queen.
What do you mean at times the Queen?
Because Jay Scheimer did the Queen a couple times too.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, I love Linda Gary as Queen Marlena, as Evelyn, and as the Sorceress.
Outside of that,
I know we're trying to praise them here, folks, but outside of that, any of the time that she does a child voice, it grades on me.
Yeah, obviously Erica Scheimer and Linda Gary are doing all the children voices, which we didn't necessarily care for as much.
Yeah, I do love John Irwin as that the giant in the most recent episode we did.
Oh yeah, I know.
I love John Irwin's deep voice.
Right.
It's not his
and his Granomir voice too.
Yeah, and his Granomir voice. I tend to like John as He-Man more than Adam. I mean, I don't have a problem with Adam's voice. I don't dislike it, but his He-Man voice is kind of more my style.
And obviously Lou Scheimer is not technically a voice actor, so to speak. I mean, he is. I don't want to have that come across wrong. He is, because he voice acted a ton of people in this episode or in this series. But I mean, obviously outside of Filmation, he wasn't like a voice actor before he got involved in his own projects. It's like the Vince McMahon of wrestling getting involved like that. And John Irwin did some voice acting, but also mostly for Filmation. The most prolific voice actor easily is Alan Oppenheimer. As far as doing stuff before and after He-Man.
Now, I want to take a moment here and direct people over to the website, geekcastradio.com. I'm going to put a link in this episode post and show you guys. I did an interview with John Semper Jr. He is the main guy that was in charge of the 1994 Spider-Man cartoon. Mm-hmm. He actually worked with Linda Gary. She was the voice of Aunt May on that series, and this was like right before she passed, and She was really, really sick. Just go over to the. She was really, really sick at the time. They actually wrote out lines for her to say, and I believe there's something in this story. Again, go over to the website, listen to the interview. He tells a really, really nice story about Linda Gary. She is someone I would have loved to have been able to interview. Obviously, sadly, that could not happen. But it's one of those things, even though I don't like the character she voices in Teela, because Teela is just we've already said, I still like her as a voice actor. And a voice actress, and she has done some really, really awesome. I think maybe in the final episode of the podcast, we need to find somewhere to put in there like a voice actor spotlight where we kind of look at the major voice casts from these series and look at some of the other stuff they've done.
Yeah,
just
for sure.
Just a brief like 5-10 minute kind of thing or something. I don't know. But the voice actor, Alan Oppenheimer, honestly takes the cake.
Right.
He really does. Doesn't matter what character he's doing. Specifically for me, it's probably Cringer. His Cringer is just so awesome. It really, really is.
No, I agree with that. And just getting into some feedback as far as the series, Mike, we've heard some of the feedback, but what else did you get?
Well, we got, you guys heard in the break we just took, you heard a voicemail from Toon Master Tim. So thank you, Tim. Tim has been, I think, I'm going to have to go back and look here, probably since at least episode maybe 11, I don't know, because we actually had gone on a hiatus for a while, and I'll give that number out in a moment. Probably since episode 1 of the podcast, Toon Master Tim has been leaving us comments on the website every single podcast we've put out. There was a break on Tales of Eternia, even though I've said we've gone strong for 3 years. Between June 6th of 2013 to February 2nd of 2014, of last year, we had to take a break. But other than that, we do have one, let's see, episode 45. We have one. We've gone international, folks. We have one from an Andrew Mills. He says, Dear TFG1Mike and OptimusSolo, I have loved listening to the Tales of Eternia podcast over the last few years. Your differences in opinion have been really funny to listen to. I hope you will publish a table of the grades you both gave each episode. That's something we'll talk about off air. I live in London, England. If Apple would let me leave you an iTunes review, it would go something like this. 5 stars or whatever the highest rating is. This podcast is one of the best podcasts in podcast land. Hearing these two crazy bastards talk about He-Man is the highlight of my week. Even though I am not a huge She-Ra fan, I will continue to look forward to listening to the podcast. It would be great if in the future you could do the occasional He-Man related episode, as it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on the toys and upcoming movie, etc. Take care, guys. Thanks for the podcasts. Andrew Mills. Well, we'll tell you what's coming up, folks, in the special episodes, like I mentioned before. We'll tell you all that at the end of this. Thank you once again to Andrew. I do have somewhat of another number. This is a little bit old. I didn't ask Steve Megatron for the updated one, but about a month ago, he had sent me a screen cap of our feed burner numbers. Feed burner is the place where we usually have everyone subscribe. It's not iTunes numbers, but it's the feed burner, Libsyn, that kind of thing. It's kind of where we put the RSS feeds. Currently, as of last month, Powers of Grayskull has 75 subscribers through FeedBurner. So thank you to everyone. We know there are silent listeners out there. Please speak up. Send us voicemails. Send us emails. Let us know. Tweet at us at Pow of Grayskull. Or for him, it's at OptimusSolo. For me, it's TFG1Mike.
Especially if you if you have things you like or didn't like about this, because we're about to do 3 other segments of this whole journey, and we can adapt our methods and our structure, to appease the fans if you speak up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now I know our buddy Toon Master Tim has told me, because we're not doing. We're going to be doing production on the Myths of Etheria, the She-Ra podcast, but we're not actually going to launch it until September. And Tim told me 9 months, that's a long time. And I said, well, don't worry, you'll have the Gem Show to keep you company in the meantime. Folks, just like everything, like I said in the beginning of this, we've been doing this for a long time, and it's not that I need a break from it, but we need to. There's plenty of other things at GCRN that we both want to do, and we need to focus on that for now.
We both got a lot of different things and projects that we're involved with, but also this should allow for when it does go and start again that there won't be any breaks midstream. We should get consistent content every week for She-Ra, so you don't have to wait. Once we start that, you should get something every week until we're done. Absolutely. So thanks for the feedback. We appreciate it. And then there have been a lot of other people that have commented on the actual website throughout different episodes. We've have our fans that commented there, and that's also a great way to interact. So if you want to interact with us, definitely go to the actual episode post moving forward, or even going back. Even if you go back and comment on an episode from a year ago, we will comment on that. We will reply to that. So even if you're wanting to, maybe you haven't been with us and you're just finding us now, you can go back and listen through episode 1 and watch the series along with it and give you our thoughts. We'll still interact with you. So it's not just because we're done with the He-Man series does not mean that you can't still listen and interact with us about those episodes.
Exactly.
So what's coming up next, sir?
Well, coming up next, we're going to be doing She-Ra. So a little bit of a breakdown before I read the outro script. How we're going to do She-Ra, Princess of Power, is in episode 46, we're going to do a commentary on Secret of the Sword. So we're going to watch the movie, and we're going to commentary along with it for ourselves. You're going to have to do something a little special, as I think you have. Do you have the movie, or do you not have the movie?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I have it.
You're going to have to watch it with its commentary with Scheimer and see what they say on that, if there's any interesting tidbits on that.
Yeah.
But Secret of the Sword, episode 46 commentary, and then episode 47, we're going to do a She-Ra introduction, and we're going to give you the differences between the film version and the 5-part episodes, because what happened was, I do remember, I think it's Gwen Wexler, I believe is her name. I could be wrong. She was the director on most of these. Into Etheria, Beast Island, She-Ra Unchained, Reunions, and Battle for Bright Moon. Those 5 episodes were taken aside and cut into the film version that is called Secret of the Sword. So we're going to, in episode 47, we're going to point out the differences between the episodic version and the film version, because I remember when I watched the episodes, there are several things that are there that aren't in the film version. Like there's a point where, and I'm not trying to spoil it for you or anything else, but I do remember something with Hordak in the episodes that I'm like, wait a second, where did that scene come from? It's kind of like, you film, let's say, 100 scenes, and you only use 80 of them, or you only use 30 of them. So it's kind of like cutting room floor kind of stuff. And then after that, so basically, She-Ra will take up Myths of Etheria is the title of the new podcast. It'll still be on the same feed. From episode 46 all the way to from episode 46 to 82 will be our She-Ra show. We will have, I think, 2 special episodes. In episode 50, we're going to be talking about the toys. We're going to be talking about all kinds of Masters toys, from the old days to now.
And I just wanted to mention that originally, last episode that we had said that we were going to talk about which characters appeared in toys that didn't appear in the cartoon and whatnot. We're holding off on that. We're going to hold off on that to talk about it when we talk about the actual toys for a number of reasons. Number one, it goes well with talking about the toys, obviously.
Yeah.
And number two, I don't want to ruin anything because there may be some characters that I'm remembering that were toys of the He-Man line that actually appear in She-Ra. So I don't want to spoil it for myself by looking at that. So we will talk about all the toys and the toys that didn't actually appear in the cartoon when we get to that special episode.
Right. And then in episode 75, we're going to talk about all of the Masters of the Universe comics that have happened over the years, from the old mini comics to the current DC stuff and everything in between.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Other special episodes we have coming, just to kind of give everybody a preview. Episode 100 will be our live-action movie commentary on the 87 film.
That's going to be fun.
It's going to be interesting is what it is. So that's what that one's going to be. And then episode 120, this is dependent on whether or not the new movie actually gets made. But episode 120 of the podcast, we will be doing a discussion on the new Masters of the Universe film.
Crossing our fingers.
Yep. Absolutely. So, folks, be prepared. We are so excited to get to She-Ra. We are ready. We are ready to enter Etheria, and it is going to be awesome and amazing.
Absolutely. Can't wait, and hopefully we'll gain more fans along the way and do some more interaction with people as we... I'm excited because I absolutely have no recollection of She-Ra outside a few characters and a few toys that I bought my sister, which we'll get into when we get there, into the introduction part of it, but definitely interested in going along the journey here and remembering things and learning things for the first time about some of these characters, seeing if there's crossovers between He-Man characters and She-Ra characters or the toys or whatever that I had, so it should be fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to Powers of Grayskull's first episodic podcast, Tales of Eternia, covering all 130 episodes of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe from Filmation. If you'd like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the podcast, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on this and all of the other episode posts. Send email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Please do this. We have 75 subscribers on FeedBurner. If you added it to your iTunes from FeedBurner, please go leave us iTunes reviews. Follow us on Twitter at Pow of Grayskull is the show Twitter. Network Twitter is Geekcast Radio. Mine is TFG1Mike. What is your Twitter?
The only one that matters, at OptimusSolo.
The only one that doesn't matter. Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network. Call the voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. There's a 5-minute time limit. We hope you enjoyed the Tales of Eternia for the past 3 years, and don't forget to join us in our next adventure when we will kick off the She-Ra Princess of Power reviews with our commentary on the secret of the sword, as we explore the myths of Etheria. For now, I am TFG1Mike with...
the one and only OptimusSolo.
By the power and for the honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
Doesn't anyone ever clean up around here? What a mess. Today I broke a promise and proved myself unworthy of the great power that was given me. And if I am unworthy, I can no longer permit myself to be He-Man. Let the power return!
I brought the Wind Raider, Adam. Let's go home.